Does Hawaii have any positional advantages over Arizona? And Oscar Rios, 4-star Arizona prospect, is absolutely slinging that rock and running it. Talking about all that and more on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome on in, guys, to the AZ Wildcats podcast, live from Studio K, presented by our friends at Circle K. I am your host, Damon Fairall. That is my guy, Kevin Thomas, and we are here in downtown Phoenix at beautiful HQ, PHNX HQ3, the new studio, if you will, and we are fired up to be talking about some more Arizona Wildcats athletics, especially honing in on some football as it is game week, Arizona versus Hawaii. Kevin, how are we living on a Tuesday, a Taco Tuesday? Me and your boy are about to maybe break some bread, split some tacos after this fine program is over at an establishment just downstairs. Can't wait, man. Can't wait.
Excited for Taco Tuesday to celebrate that with you, Damon, our guy, producer, graphic guru, Noah, already got out ahead of that a little early on us. It's all good, though. The real ones are going to go as a group, you and I, celebrating Taco Tuesday downstairs. But we have a lot to talk about, and I'm excited that we have a lot to talk about here on a Tuesday on game week. We have Hawaii injury updates as well. Didn't even mention that, and a lot more, Damon. It's a good day to be talking football yet again here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. How are you doing? How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great because guess what? My quarterback, my future quarterback, is him.
Yes.
He's him. Oscar Rios, obviously we all know that he was an Elite 11 finalist. He performed very admirably. His ranking is around right in that range, right? Like he's I believe he was top 10 for 24/7 Sports. He since has been bumped down since his commitment to Arizona, naturally, as we all expect. He's now the 11th ranked quarterback according to 247 Sports, and in the composite, he is 12th, both inside the top 200 overall prospects, around the 20th ranked prospect in the state of California. But when Oscar Rios got the opportunity to go up against all of the guys essentially who are above him in those rankings, Kevin, he was every bit as good as those players. And we see here in the opening week of high school football, Oscar Rios was pretty much the star of the show when it comes to, the elite level quarterbacks across the country.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're going to go through all the elite quarterbacks on this list. Some of the highest regarded programs in the nation have recruits on this list. But if you look down there, about fifth from the bottom is Oscar Rios of Downey out there in California, an Arizona commit, 24 for 33 this past Friday, I should say. 309 passing yards for 1 touchdown, but that's not even the most impressive part. The most impressive part is that in a 3-point victory over Notre Dame, he had 14 attempts for 128 yards rushing, Damon. Incredibly impressive from the 4-star quarterback prospect headed to Tucson after his high school time is over. But yeah, I just really want to call attention to the rushing stats there. That is truly impressive stuff. Being able to, in a 1-score game, throw it through a needle for 309 yards and a high completion percentage, and also run it for 14 attempts and 128 yards. This is not just like one fortunate 30-yard scamper and you have 2 rushes for 50 yards or 2 rushes for like 45 yards or something. Yeah. This is consistent success in a real dual threat way. That's what that statistic shows me. And also, furthermore, these stats show me that Oscar Rios is not only one of the best, recruits in the nation. He's one of the best quarterback recruits possible for Arizona to have signed, right? Oscar Rios has shown himself to be one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. You look at these stats of the players that did actually play this past weekend, he was the best, right? You can go through. Look at Will Griffin, who had a good day, 18 for 28, 301. You look at Bryson Beaver, sick name, 297, 2 touchdowns and interception. You even look at Briggs Cherry, who clearly did not play the entirety of that game, as they had a 56-17 blowout. He only had, 1 incompletion, but he threw for 221 yards and 3 touchdowns. Oscar Rios seems to have been in the closest game of anyone involved with the best stats. And for that, I think Oscar Rios has truly vaulted himself into a conversation like Edgar says here. If he continues to ball out this year at this level, doing a dual threat attack on offense, he could see himself get bumped up into that 5-star range. I don't know what exactly the number he has to reach for that is in the ratings and such. But yeah, like I said, what I learned from Oscar Rios' statistics, Damon, is he can kind of do it all, and that he has arrived. He is one of the best quarterbacks in the nation, and Seth Doege got him one for certain.
Yeah. And I want to get into that kind of discussion about his ranking potentially going up, but I agree with you. I mean, I think, that was the thing that stuck out to me as well. Not only was this, a situation where Oscar Rios put up the best stats of all of these players that, and to be fair, half of them did not have high school football games in the week. So it's not as if, he was competing against a full field, but he also was doing it in a game that was close and a game that was important. And I'm looking at the high school football rankings according to Max Preps. Even despite the loss, Notre Dame is still a top 75 high school in the state of California. It's not as if they're just some, terrible football team. And I know that sounds crazy, but this isn't the state of Arizona where, it's essentially the top 20, 25, or else you're not really talking about great teams. This is the most populated state in the entire country for a reason. And Downey, the high school that, Oscar Rios plays for, they are in kind of a barely higher range than that. They're 43rd. So, I mean, those are schools that were of similar caliber. And Oscar Rios, puts up an absolutely star-studded performance there. Almost 450 all-purpose yards from the air and on the ground. And doesn't turn the ball over. I'd be interested to see what happened in that game necessarily to make that where they only had 24 points, because given the amount of yards and lack of turnovers from that Oscar Rios stat line, you'd almost expect that they scored more than that. But regardless, Oscar Rios shows out. And honestly, as Glenn puts here in the chat, it is a little bit of a Jaden Daniels vibe, where you got that kind of tall, skinny, strong-armed quarterback who maybe his full game isn't rushing the football. Like, that's not necessarily what you think of when you think of Oscar Rios or what you think when you think of Jaden Daniels, but that when they get out of the pocket, they can make you pay with their wheels. And yeah, I mean, honestly, if that is the type of player that you get out of Oscar Rios, then it's the most massive of W's, right?
1,000%, Damon. And if we obviously thought with Seth Doege going out and chasing a guy like Oscar Rios, that certainly he has some more traditional quarterback skills, because that is kind of a thing that Seth Doege really appreciates, a guy who can play that quarterback position the way he envisions it's supposed to be played, right?
Yeah.
But if you look at what he really wants to do with an offense, he wants to be versatile. He wants to be able to throw different things at a defense, and he can do that with Noah Fafita. But if he can do that even at I won't say higher level in terms of skill, right, than Noah Fafita, but if he can do more mixing and matching of like RPO stuff, right? If he can do more with a rushing style, a higher caliber rushing quarterback, I'll say, in a way, right? Because Noah Fafita can get out of the pocket, but he really is not specialized in a rushing way. Oscar Rios could really be Seth Doege's first true guy at Arizona in a way, right? Because Noah Fafita, not necessarily a Seth Doege guy in the traditional sense that he got him to Arizona himself, signed under Seth Doege and played under Seth Doege. There's always interest there. There's always respect there. But if Oscar Rios is who he is early on showing us he could be, it could be a very special relationship between him and Seth Doege. I would love to learn more about Oscar Rios' mentality, because we know that Seth Doege really loves those football lifers, so to speak, the guys that just eat, sleep, breathe football. If Oscar Rios is all that on top of the skill set he's already teasing us with, I think that this could be a huge and one of the more underrated quarterback recruitments in the country, in my opinion.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think in terms of the whole 5-star conversation, he would have to make up a ton of ground to truly be a 5-star. He has a 91 rating on 247 Sports, and to get to that 5-star threshold, you have to get, I think you have to be a 95 rating, but even Landon Duckworth, who has a 94 and is the 6th quarterback in the country, is not a 5-star. The only 5-star recruits at quarterback are the top 5. Ryder Lyons, Jared Curtis, who's committed to Georgia, Diabell to Texas, who won the Elite 11. Keyshawn Henderson to Houston, which is, of course, remains the most dumbfounding recruitment, I think, in college football this past season. And then Faison Brandon to Tennessee. So, I mean, you're talking about big-time programs outside of Houston. Ryder Lyons going to BYU, who we know their pockets are extremely deep. I don't think that there's really much of any chance that he gets moved up to a 5-star. He would have to jump about 150 spots in the rankings for that to happen. But he could definitely find himself into the top 10 and could definitely find himself maybe potentially passing one Jake Fetty, committed to Arizona State. That would be good enough for me. You know what I mean? Our program's in the mud, but we're still recruiting better high school quarterbacks than you. Not that I expect that to happen necessarily, but that would be a fun little back and forth to have with Arizona State fans. But all in all, I think mostly this just goes to show that Oscar Rios is an elite quarterback. And if Arizona can hold on to this recruitment, because I'm not going to lie, getting a type of player like this, the number 1 quarterback recruit in Arizona football history, it's like, to me, my first inclination is like, who's going to come in for this guy late and try to steal him. So if Arizona can hold on to this recruitment, I really think that and have a decent year this year, I think that spells really well for the Brent Brennan future and tenure. Like if Arizona can make a bowl game this year and have Oscar Rios in the fold, in the next year after that, with Seth Doege being more established and looking good in year 1, I do think that could spell well for the future of this football program.
I think so too, Damon. And I love that you mentioned like other programs might come in late and try to steal this player, because if you do see the highlights from Oscar Rios' performance against Notre Dame, like the stuff he is showcasing in that performance is stuff that all programs are looking for. He's showcasing different arm angles. He's showcasing abilities to make guys miss in the open field, not just using a juke, but also using his straight up open field acceleration. He's also showcasing the ability to find guys in traffic over the middle in high leverage situations in the red zone. Like the highlight reels that I'm seeing against Notre Dame from Oscar Rios, like this is really, really, really high level quarterback play at the high school level. If Arizona is able to secure this all the way through to the finish line for Oscar Rios, it's huge for the program, right? Because regardless of how you feel about his, listed weight of, I think 175 at 6'3", like if he is able to avoid contact and still get out of the pocket, like there are plays where the pocket is collapsing against him in this Notre Dame performance, and he is able to, because of his smaller stature, but still being high enough to be able to read the defense in that way, he's able to, slip, slide, evade, get out the pocket, make 7 yards out of what would have been a negative 7-yard sack if it was a different, more stationary quarterback. Really impressed with the highlights I'm seeing here. I'm looking at here on this huddle from Oscar Rios in this Notre Dame performance. It's really, really high level stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he looks the part in every way, and definitely from a thrower standpoint as well. Like you can see that flick of the wrist. He has that innate ability, and I think that you see it with Noah Fifita a little bit as well, where I feel like Seth Doege wants like natural throwers of the football. You know what I mean? Like his number 1 priority, and you can kind of see this in the way that Oscar Rios is much more of a dual threat than Noah Fifita. They are not in any way, shape, or form like similar quarterbacks, I think. Noah Fifita is a good half foot shorter than Oscar Rios if you probably stack them up against one another. But the one thing that is similar is the way in which the ease in which the football, comes out of their hand. And that's where I think that seems to be, the priority for a guy like Seth Doege is he just wants that natural thrower of the football running his offense, because he wants to be able to run multiple different types of offenses, whether that's putting it on the ground more so like he did at Marshall and kind of adapting in that way, but also having the ability to kind of throw the football and spread it out and do the run and shoot offense that we're going to see in Hawaii in this upcoming game on Saturday. So I think that the priority is being a versatile offense, and that starts with getting a guy who can kind of do it all in Oscar Rios.
Speaking of that do-it-all ability, Damon, this is more of a tangential and less substantive thing to bring up, but I think it's still important, right? For a guy like Brent Brennan, who is trying to rebuild an Arizona program that was just at an Alamo Bowl in 2023, right?
Yeah.
Seth Doege, what a lot of fans loved about him most is that he brought excitement into the program. He injected, at least the offensive side of things with a huge amount of intrigue, right? In the style in which he wants to play is a viewer-friendly style, a fan-friendly style. It's high pace, high scoring, trying to entertain the fans and win a football game. Oscar Rios is an entertaining football player, right? I think like from a casual Arizona fan's perspective, you can totally get behind a guy like Oscar Rios because he's slinging it, he's running it, he's making guys miss, he's got the deep ball accuracy, he's got the intermediate range accuracy. He kind of has it all from even a casual fan's perspective.
He's got the spiky dog collar neck chain.
In our thumbnail, I mean, the guy's just absolutely dripped out in all the flames. Spicy there is the chain on Oscar Rios. But yeah, Damon, and before we, continue talking more about Oscar Rios, can we just acknowledge some of the names on this Elite 11 tracker before we get too far removed from it?
Yeah.
We got names like Bryson Beaver, who's going to be a Duck. You know what I mean? You got names like...
See, that doesn't feel right.
It doesn't. He should be an Oklahoma or Oregon State guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Bo Bentley, and has there ever been a more Oklahoma football player named than Bo Bentley?
No, there hasn't.
Faison. Got a guy named Faison.
Faison Brandon,
last
too.
name, first name.
It almost makes you want to do Brandon. You know what I mean? Just to kind of mix with it.
We also have Briggs Cherry.
I was going to say Briggs Cherry playing at a red school. Pretty unreal. Landon Duckworth.
I
mean, that's potentially the most southern name of all time.
Well, Bo Bentley said, Duckworth. Hold my beer.
Bo Bentley just sounds like a dude who plays high school football in Texas for sure. But Landon Duckworth sounds like the dude who like owns the entire South Carolina town that he's from. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even Keyshawn Henderson is pretty cool.
Yeah, but
that's a cool name.
You know what's funny about Keyshawn Henderson is that on this list, it doesn't even stand out as a name because the other names are just so absurd in points of this list.
Yeah.
Right? We got a guy named Jet and a guy with the last name Zamet. Like, I love this list. This list has everything I love. An Arizona guy balling out and some weird, wacky names.
And I know it's simple, but Dia Bell kind of sounds like a professional quarterback. Yeah.
It's really cool. Also sounds like it would be a sick like WNBA like shooting guard.
And Fetty Wap. Fetty Wap's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Ryder Lyons, obviously.
Ooh.
Kind of an electric name. It is a good crop of names from and you know what? Oscar Rios is just the lunch pail guy. We don't need to do anything too special.
I mean, his
flash guess what?
On the
We're
neck.
all about ball. You guys are all about having sweet names. We're all about ball over here at Downey High School in California.
I love it, Damon. And we do have more to talk about in relation to the Hawaii matchup upcoming this weekend because we won't have a show tomorrow. Heads up, we'll not have a show tomorrow as it is Wednesday and we're taking Wednesdays off. I know. But after this break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast, we're going to break down all the positional battles head-to-head for Arizona and Hawaii on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Leave a like, drink your water, don't go anywhere. Ooh, it is ad break time. Sweet, sweet ad break time. And that means I get to tell you about our friends over at Rally House. I truly do love Rally House. Every time I go back to St. Louis, I make a point to stop at a Rally House and see if they have any new, in my case, St. Louis Blues memorabilia. You know what I mean? But when I come out here back to my new home state of Arizona, I'm always looking for Arizona Wildcat stuff. And Rally House is your place if you are a fan of an Arizona sports team anywhere in the Freedom State. Because now they have locations in Tempe, Mesa, and Glendale. Rally House is the go-to spot for all your local Arizona team gear with tens of thousands of products to shop from. They really have it all, from coasters to jerseys to alternate jerseys to signage to flags. They got it all at Rally House. So find your local Rally House location today. Shop their entire product assortment online as well if you can't make it out to their brick and mortars at www.rallyhouse.com right now in a separate browser while you keep our show open.
Love our friends at Rally House. It is the start of college football season. It's the start of football season. Rally House, you're going to have to go get yourself some new merch. You're also going to have to find a way to get the cheapest last-minute tickets that you could find anywhere to attend said football games. Kevin, I am a big connoisseur of trying to go to college football games in particular live, and that's because there's no better fan environment in all of American sports, in my opinion, than that of college football. And whether it's going to an Arizona football game at Arizona Stadium, or maybe you live somewhere else and you just want to go catch your local football game. Maybe you're like me and you want to go watch TCU versus Arizona State and root against your hated rivals, but catch a game in person in the process. I think that, Game Time is the only place in order to get those tickets done. And if you wait until the last minute, you're going to get the cheapest price point possible. It really is that simple, guys. So check out their deals that they got going on with college football season. Wait till the last minute, put in our promo code of PHNX, and you're going to save $20 off your first purchase. Some things I like about the Game Time app that make it so much better and different than the other ticketing apps. They give you your all-in pricing right away. They show you exactly where your seat is going to be in the stadium and what your view is going to be before you make a purchase that you regret. And they have the lowest price guarantee, where Game Time will make sure that you have the lowest price on those tickets available, or you will be credited for 110% of the difference. It really is the best guarantee in all of ticketing, and you get to take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it?
Game time.
When I say all of that, I 100% mean it. Me and my friends I've since, gotten this job, and now I work covering a college football team, and it makes it pretty difficult. But I had the plan with my close friends, to go to a college football game in a new stadium every year and just start checking off the list of like big college football games, like try to get out to like an Alabama LSU game at Death Valley or something. And I was doing pretty good. And until last year, I think we broke the streak, unfortunately. But that is something that is on the bucket list for sure, checking out all of these big time stadiums.
What do you think your next one might be? Can we do some plotting right now as to what your next one
I don't know.
may be?
So the two biggest ones I've gone to for sure, I definitely would say, are Oregon, going to Autzen, unbelievable, and then going to Texas as well was pretty damn cool. They got about 100K people they can fit in there. So
you know what? I've really always wanted to go to the Red River rivalry. That seems like one of the most electric environments in all of the sport. Like the colors split right down the middle.
And that one's a little different too, because it's not at one of the schools, so it's not like you're going to travel to like, oh, we're gonna go to an Ole Miss game and hang out at the Grove and tailgate with like fancy clothes on before we walk in. You know what I mean? It's like the Red River rivalry is like almost like a bowl game every year, because it's just on a neutral site. It's like in between both places. It's pretty cool, but that would definitely be one of the ones I would love to go see. Notre Dame Stadium and Death Valley at LSU. Those would be unreal. And for example, like I've seen in recent years on trips I've gone to, I've seen Georgia's stadium in person, and I've seen Clemson Stadium in person, but not during games. So like I was just on the campus and I just wanted to check out what the stadium looked like real quick. Unreal venues. Georgia, not that big, honestly. Like, kind of like, I know it's not probably the same size, and I'm probably going to feel like an idiot saying this right now, so I'm going to look up Georgia's stadium size, and then, but it doesn't feel that much bigger than U of A's. It is a lot bigger than U of A's. Like I said, I was going to feel like an idiot. They have 93K there, but it looks kind of compact when you're taking a peek at it. Clemson's looks like a monstrosity. Clemson's looks like an NFL stadium.
I believe it. I do believe it. I was about to say, similar to you, I have seen Oklahoma's stadium in person, but I was just on campus. There wasn't like a game that day. I don't even think it was in season. I think it was in the summer. Mm-hmm. But that's a nice stadium.
South Carolina's is pretty big too. I saw that one recently.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. But shall we get to? Honestly, I shout out to Snapback Sports as well, because they were at the Big 12 Media Day. We saw them out there. They're one of their guys, Icy Vert, who's big on Twitter. I don't know what his situation with Hawaii was, but they let him come out and do some content with them in like their locker room and in their jerseys and stuff. And he was at the practices. I'm saying all this to say he did take some photos and post some photos of Hawaii's campus, and just, man, they got it so damn good out there. The areas that they go out and relax in are like things that you would post on Twitter and be like, this is my idyllic world. Nothing on earth can be more beautiful than this. And so, meanwhile, some accounting major at the University of Hawaii is just stressing over their CPA exam in the most beautiful place on planet Earth. It drove me crazy, because Arizona has a beautiful campus. So many places on that campus I love to go to relax and unwind. Like the Turtle Park is fire, and it's like in the middle of a street. It's not even like a super like relaxing area of Tucson either. I love Arizona's, but like you gotta look at Hawaii's campus. It's just
you're right. And
it's
what's crazy about that, Kevin, is that and not to disparage it because I was just in Oahu and I had an unbelievable time and it's super fun, but that's almost like the non-pretty part of Hawaii. Like that's like where the city and like tons of people live. You go to any of the other islands, it's like way more nature based and even prettier. It's nuts. Hawaii's unbelievable. But you're right. The downside of that is having to travel across the Pacific Ocean for every single game that you play on the road. And that's why Hawaii hasn't won a, non-conference Power 4, Power 5 game since 2019 in large part because it's really difficult for them to adhere to that travel schedule and then go out there and win the games. Like I believe, Kevin, and let's just get into it right here. There's been some stuff flying about Micah Alejado and his injury and that he sustained against Stanford. It seems like adrenaline somewhat kind of took over in that game and allowed him to finish it, but he was struggling when he came back here. And we do have a quote from Coach Timmy Chang who had who weighed in on Micah Alejado's injury, if we wouldn't mind bringing that up.
Well, yeah, actually, can I show the practice footage of
Sure.
Micah Alejado real quick? Well, because we do have footage of him at practice, and it is relevant because he is not in a boot, Damon, and I do think that is important when talking about this because you don't want to, like I made the joke that you don't want to mess with the sprained ankle or whatnot, but you really don't. And so the fact that he's not out there in a boot does show a good sign to me if you're a Hawaii fan as well. But, yeah, like you said, we do have an update from Timmy Chang who said that he expects Micah Alejado to play on Saturday. And like you said, the adrenaline probably did get the best of him in their matchup on Saturday against Stanford. Coach Chang said, I expect Micah to go. Right now, we're putting together a list of things for him to do to recover. He's going to be in the training room and get a lot of treatment before we depart on Thursday afternoon. And Damon, what are your thoughts on this Micah Alejado update?
Part of my thoughts and part of the reason I wanted to dive straight into this conversation is because I think that part about how when we depart on Thursday afternoon, is that enough time to acclimate to that big of a travel day?
Get there Thursday night, wake up Friday morning, probably
you get there Thursday night at it's about a 5-6 hour, it's a 6-hour flight, right? So if you're leaving in the afternoon, you're not getting back anytime, you're actually going forward. So you're probably getting there actually in the morning Arizona time. I mean, that sounds like how Friday all day you're getting acclimated to the time. Saturday is your first day of being acclimated and you got to wake up and play a football. I mean, that honestly, like I know they got school, but like that I think encapsulates the struggle of playing as at Hawaii for sports is you really have to deal with travel stuff that other teams just frankly do not have to put up with. You're going to have literally one day to acclimate before you turn around and have to play a college football game in a game that you're a 16.5-point underdog in. That's part of the reason I'm so confident in this Arizona team is because we're going to break down the position by position matchups, and I think Arizona very clearly has the edge on paper in basically every group. Factor in the time constraint with that. Factor in the fact that Brent Brennan was more successful than Timmy Chang has shown in the Mountain West Conference. Like, I just feel like it would be an absolute travesty if Arizona didn't win this football game, especially with their quarterback battling some injuries.
Yeah, and you mentioned you add all that travel, all the context that you alluded to, which is every reason as to why you should be backing Arizona in this game on top of the added, perceived skill gap between the two teams. This is not like a Hawaii team that absolutely steamrolled an FCS school in their week 0 game and got to sit their starters in the second half and they were up 50-7 or something. This is a team that was fighting until the last play to win that game. It was a high stress, high stakes first game at home. You don't want to lose at home to start your season, especially a Hawaii team that's just trying to make a bowl game for the first time. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I genuinely don't know out of ignorance how many years, if you could check that for me. But the point being, they fought and clawed last Saturday, and now they're going to have to fight an extremely steep uphill battle against an Arizona team that has been chomping at the bit to get out there and play some football this season and prove the doubters wrong and really set the record straight as to who they are as players. The odds continue to stack up against Hawaii. So if you're, Timmy Chang and the Hawaii faithful, if you can have Micah Alejado for this game, it doesn't. I mean, shout out to Easy to Swarm. They had a preview article out there for the Hawaii matchup with a Hawaii beat reporter who gave 2 predictions: one if Alejado played and one if he didn't. But spoiler alert, they were both Arizona W's by a substantial amount of points. It was just 1 touchdown difference either way. So I don't know. If Micah Alejado does play for Hawaii, if you're a Hawaii fan, you must feel a little bit more confident that you can give Arizona a run for their money in the first half. But I don't legitimately, I feel like the odds may be too stacked for Hawaii. And that does not mean that we should be taking Hawaii lightly coming into this one, but just objectively looking at it, the odds are really rough if you're the Rainbow Warriors.
Yeah. I'm looking here. It seems as though Hawaii hasn't played in a bowl game since 2021. They actually didn't even play in that bowl game. That was when Todd Graham, ASU former coach, was their head coach. And it seems as though there was some sort of cancellation dealing with some sort of COVID something or other that led to the game being canceled. So before that, they played in 2020 in a bowl game. So basically since 2020, Hawaii has been waiting on a bowl game. If you want to count based off of their last 500 or better season, it was 2021. But yeah, they've been struggling as a program a little bit as of recently. And I think, Timmy Chang, by all accounts, if you're breaking down Hawaii and the state of their program, it seems as though they are on the up and up, and this is his most talented team. I do expect this Hawaii team to play a postseason game this year. I think they'll win 6+ games, and I think they'll compete in the Mountain West. But that being said, Arizona is expected to do the same thing in a much, much better conference. And so if you want to make a bowl game as Arizona, you have to start off and take this game seriously, treat it like it's the damn Super Bowl. That's my thought process, right? Because New Mexico was way too close last year. NAU was even closer inexplicably. And it's I think right now, if you're Brent Brennan, how would you have any comfortability looking ahead to, say Kansas State, even looking past Weber State? It's no, let's actually buckle down and make this game uncompetitive and give our fans something to be confident in moving forward and make them have some hope, I guess. So that's where I'm at with it. I think that we've outlined a lot of the reasons as to why Arizona has a lot of advantages over Hawaii. But if we look at the positional breakdown, it should be even, I think worse on paper, right? So starting off here, Kevin, and we could kind of go, I think, position by position or look at a couple groups, bring it off screen, and then talk about each one. But starting off at quarterback, I think right now this is the battle of the short quarterbacks, right? I mean, you got Noah Fafita, who's listed at 5'10", but probably not 5'10", versus Micah Alejado, who's listed at 5'10", who's probably not 5'10".
I hate when short kings go to war.
Yeah, I think Fafita's a little bit stockier than Micah Alejado, but which I think bodes well for durability reasons. But these are maybe the 2 premier short guy quarterbacks right now in college football, both Polynesian as well, which interestingly enough. And yeah, I mean, I think this is a situation where Noah Fafita is just better than Michael Alejado. And that's not disrespect. Michael Alejado is one of the best players on the Hawaii team. I think, that's one of the reasons that Hawaii has a shot in this game against Arizona is because of their passing attack led by, their pretty good quarterback there. But I just think that on paper, Noah Fafita is a better quarterback. He's reached heights that Michael Alejado's never reached. He's shown it before in college football, and I don't see any way, shape, or form you could not say Noah Fafita is the superior player.
Noah Fafita is everything Micah Alejado is and so much more, right? And that's, like you said, no disrespect to Micah Alejado. That's just the way that things are when we're breaking this down.
Yeah.
And real quick to talk about Edgar's comment here in the chat, who said we can't look past anybody.
Absolutely.
I want to illustrate and, to add on to build onto what Damon said earlier about how, you kind of got to treat the first game like the Super Bowl. I would say if you're Arizona, you need to treat every game like the Super Bowl. And by that, I mean, you don't have a reputation if you're Arizona football right now. You had the Alamo Bowl season, and then you had last season under Brennan. And I think nationally and to an extent locally, people don't know what to think of you, right? They don't know if you are the team from 2024 or if you are going to return to be a semblance of the team from 2023. And so I think you need to approach every single game as this is what makes or breaks our reputation. And I'm not saying that like you should put an absurd amount of pressure on yourself if you're Arizona football, but attack it with that level of urgency, attack it with that level of importance, because you're not, I don't know, K-State, for example, who they can come out and have a stinker in week 0 in Dublin, but because people view the program as so stable and they view Avery Johnson as such a prospect, they're willing to have time, bear with K-State. You're Arizona, you have none of that goodwill with media, with the fans.
Yeah.
So you have to come out and treat every single game like it is the Super Bowl. And that level of urgency should result in some good W's. And I have faith that they will have that level of urgency. Just wanted to make sure that it was clear. We're not saying you can look past anybody if you're Arizona. You are not in that position. Speaking of more positions, running backs, Damon. Arizona takes the cake here. What do you got for us on the matchup battle in the running back room?
Yeah, so Hawaii's running back is his name is Landon Sims, which actually, funny enough, that is the name of a former Mississippi State relief pitcher in college baseball who is unbelievable.
Sicko,
the Diamondbacks picked him, drafted him in a pretty early round, and he's since been in the Diamondbacks minor league organization. So when you look up Landon Sims, that's the first Landon Sims that comes up. But Landon Sims of Hawaii fame is a player that had 255 yards and 351 yards in his respective last 2 seasons. He has a career 4.4 yards per carry average. He only had 7 carries for 12 yards against Stanford, only 2 career touchdowns. I mean, he kind of figures to be the lead back for this Hawaii team. Just kind of, they don't really have much of a run game whatsoever. They have another running back here, Cam Barfield, who had 6 carries for 45 yards. And then Micah Alejado ended up having the 10 carries for 36 yards. Carries, of course, sacks count as carries in college football, and you count against your rushing if you're a quarterback. He had a 30-yard rush mixed in there, so if you take that out, it's 9 carries for 6 yards. That 30-yard rush ended up counting for a score for Hawaii that was very pivotal in that game. But what I'm suffice it to say is they don't have a good rushing attack. They got 96 rushing yards against Stanford. They averaged about 100 last year. They're not a good running football team. And I'm very open to putting other teams' rushing attacks above Arizona's because I don't fully believe in Arizona's rushing attack as things currently constitute right now. I think the O-line is one of the scarier things you have to, kind of pay attention to from an Arizona standpoint. And I think that, Ishmael Mahdi hasn't proven it at the power level yet. Kedrick Risano has not been a lead back whatsoever in his career and struggled to gain a bunch of playing time on a really bad Arizona rushing attack last year. And that's not to say that he was given opportunity and he failed or whatnot. That's not the case. And I think he is a player that has, a lot of potential. So I'm not saying I'm writing him off either. Just the fact that we haven't seen it from those guys at this level yet. Hawaii just doesn't have anything to write home about from a running back standpoint. So Arizona has to be ahead of them. Because if they had an Ishmael Mahdi or a Kedrick Risano, they would be sitting there going, this is our guy. This is our best player in the running back room. And we have one of the best running backs in the entirety of the Mountain West. But they don't have that. So that's where Arizona has to be ahead of them.
Like you said, Damon, it is a weak point, an explicit weak point of Hawaii's team is the run game. And Arizona's run game might be more projection than substance. It might be a lot of question marks and a lot of what ifs for Arizona's run game. But it is not an explicit negative. And for that reason, it has to be a W for Arizona in the position battles for the running back room. As you alluded to, 124th nationally was Hawaii's rushing attack last year. And
out
it was
of 136, Kevin. Out of 136.
And it was propped up by long QB scrambles as you were putting in their pre-show. I really do feel like Arizona's rush defense should be able to make a good account for itself in this and really look good against the Hawaii team that just struggles to rush the ball. And also, I want to add a little bit of context for the Hawaii struggling to rush the ball part of things. It's not like Hawaii is out here explicitly trying to rush the ball consistently and just failing. They do run a more pass first, long shots down the field kind of an offense, and the running game is just kind of in the back seat waiting for its turn. But that is not an excuse for having the 124th worst rushing attack in the nation last year in 2024. So like you said, and for reasons I also alluded to, Arizona's running back room has to be winning this matchup battle. Moving on to the pass catchers, Damon, how are we feeling about these wide receiver rooms? Because I think this one This is one that I think the first one you could maybe argue that Hawaii has a real shot at overtaking Arizona. We just haven't seen it with Arizona, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this is what was difficult about putting this graphic together, Kevin, is that a lot of Hawaii's strengths are also seemingly Arizona's strengths. So we've been talking up all offseason about the absolute depth that Arizona has from a pass catching standpoint, and you know how maybe you lose your premier target in Tetero McMillan, but you make up for it in the way that you bring in basically 5 other guys who are better than every single player you had on your roster last year, not named Chris Hunter in that room, right? Because you're looking at Jeremiah Patterson now all the way down in the depth chart. He's second string technically, but he's probably the 9th receiver who gets playing time, 8th receiver who gets playing time. And he was on paper last year. People were going in to talking him up last season, being like, this junior college transfer from San Mateo is going to be the number 2 option next to T-Mac. And I remember kind of being like, that sounds really bad. Yeah. That sounds really, really bad. Now you have, Chris Hunter who burst onto the scene, but he's competing with all these other names and mouths to feed in this offense. You look at Hawaii's pass catching group, and they're really good, Kevin. It's the calling card of their team. It's their best thing that they have going for them. Puffale Ashlock is a really good college football player, and he has been the entirety of his time at Hawaii. He had 83 catches, 832 yards, and 9 touchdowns his first season he got playing time. His freshman year. 61 catches, 629 yards, and 6 touchdowns last year. So a little bit of a step back, but definitely was probably the keyed-in player that defenses were trying to match up against last season. And then he started off his season in 2025 really well. 9 catches, 69 yards, and a touchdown against Stanford. He's going to be their number 1 target and their volume receiver there. They also have Jackson Harris, who they brought in from Stanford. And anytime you can bring in a power 4 level recruit at a place like Hawaii, I think that, you have to, say that is the type of player that is definitely a game changer for them. And he also had a good first game against against Stanford. He had 59 yards and a touchdown, one of those 2 touchdowns that Micah Alejado threw for Hawaii in that Stanford game. So I definitely think that their receiving core is something that, I think will, be the strength of their team. But when you outlay it kind of similarly to how I did with Ishmael Ahmadi and Kedrick Risano, where I was like, if Hawaii had Trey Spivey and Nunu Watley,
oh my goodness,
and Chris Hunter and Chris Hudson and Luke Wysong, would they be saying this might be the best wide receiver core in the Mountain West, or would they be saying this is the best receiving core in the Mountain West? Because on paper, I think if you were to bring in a Kansas State transfer in Trey Spivey, an all Mountain West honorable mention in Luke Wysong, who I'm sure Hawaii fans were very familiar with having watched him last season. Chris Hudson, a guy who's played at both Oregon and Washington State, former 4-star recruit. Chris Hunter, who burst on the scene late for a Power 4 team last season. Like, I think if all of those options were in that Hawaii room, you would be talking about them in a completely different sense than you're talking about them right now. And that's not to say that the players in Hawaii's room can't compete at a school like Arizona. I actually think that this is about as close as it gets, and I almost wanted to go neutral here, but my reasoning for not being neutral on this one and giving it in favor of Arizona is just in the way that I think if you gave Hawaii Arizona's options, they'd be talking even more about their current receiving core than they are right now.
Yeah, I think Hawaii certainly has more, I'll say, proven entities in a way in their wide receiver room. But if you just look at if you just try to evaluate the skill sets of each room, Arizona is a much more talented wide receiver room than Hawaii's. Just because Hawaii you've actually seen it and you have the production does not mean that you can totally rule out that Arizona's wide receiver room is better from a quality standpoint. And I think that this weekend it will be shown that Arizona's wide receiver room has a more high-level playmaking capability, has more speed, has more explosiveness, and that is a complete 180 from last season, where outside of T-Mac, you lacked explosiveness, you lacked speed, you lacked playmaking, space creation from your receivers. This year, that seems completely different, and this will be the first test of that Arizona wide receiver room. We're going to continue our breakdown of these positional battles after this quick break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. We got O-line, we got pass rush, run defense, special teams. Hawaii catching a W in that area? I don't know. Don't go anywhere. It's the AZ Wildcats podcast. And if you are like me and you're bad with numbers, and in fact, you're bad with your money, that's why Monarch Money is here for me and for you. It's like your personal CFO, y'all. Monarch Money is one of the most useful financial tools that you will find on earth, I dare say. It is my favorite way to keep my finances in track and on the right track. I said that twice, but I track my income, I track my expenses, I set and smash goals using Monarch Money. It is truly the all-in-one finance app for you. If you're checking finance with your partner, maximizing investments, reviewing big transactions, weekly spending reviews, tracking categories, Monarch Money can do it all. If you have a new subscription that you didn't really know about, that maybe the gym membership you had a free trial to got you caught up, Monarch Money will track that for you and say, hey, Damon, you got a new recurring vendor. Is that valid? Are we good or are we cooked? Monarch Money has that all in track for you. So don't let this financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Listen to this. Use code PHNX at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year of this service. That's 50% off your first 12 months of these financial tools. Financial tools are sometimes hard to come by, but we're giving it to you for 50% off for a year with promo code PHNX at monarchmoney.com. Make sure to check it out.
Kevin, let's talk about America's thirst stop, Circle K. You guys hear us talk about it all the time. We are, of course, in Studio K. We love our friends at Circle K for sponsoring this fine program and all of the programs here at PHNX, but they are so much more than just a sponsor of a, stupid, ridiculous podcast company. They are, like I said, they are America's thirst stop. They are an international company these days. They have Circle K's in all different types of countries, and they have their brand new Inner Circle Rewards membership program. I say brand new, and it's not technically brand new, but it is new for Circle K standards. And if you guys haven't signed up yet, it's new to you, I guess. So please do so. Sign up now. You're going to save 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups when you sign up. It's so easy to sign up, guys. All you have to do is download the free app, choose a username and email, and put in a password. You're done. It's really that simple. America's Thirst Stop. They just want to get you in on the savings. Right now, current promotions they have for Inner Circle members only going on. You can save 25 cents off per gallon on fuel when you buy 3 or more Coca-Cola products that are 20 ounces. Unbelievable deal there, Kevin. If you just go in, you buy yourself 3 Coca-Cola 20-ounce products, you're saving way more money at the gas tank than you would, and you're making up for that money that you spent on those drinks there. Cookies $1 each. Visit 4 times and you'll save 25 cents off per gallon. You can do that once per month. So if you fill up 4 times during a month, you get 25 cents off on that next fill up. 79% Polar Pops and 99-cent Frosters. We all know the Inner Circle deals are off the charts. Go download the Circle K app. Join the Inner Circle for free. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. All types of fuel days going on at Circle K for the Inner Circle members as well. We love our friends at Circle K. Nothing like it, man. Nothing like it. It's where the people are at.
It really is. It really is. You see all types of people at a Circle K because it's the Freedom State's thirst stop. You can do what you need to do at the thirst stop. And Damon, we have some more positional breakdowns to get to. Let's get to the defensive side of the ball.
Not quite. And I did want to add real quick on the wide receiver side of things. I also did not mention Nick Sinackle, who is another wide receiver at Hawaii who's very good, at 721 yards and 6 touchdowns last year. I mean, with the addition of Harris, with Sinackle, with Pofele, Ashlock, I mean, I think that you're looking at 3 really good wide receivers in that Hawaii receiving core. But again, it's like you look at a guy like Jackson Harris and what he did at Stanford. How could you sit there and be like, oh, this guy's unbelievable, but Trey Spivey is not as good, right? Like, I think that a Hawaii fan getting Trey Spivey would be over the moon. They'd be like, this is the number 1 wide receiver on the team. So that's where I think that you just have to give the edge to Arizona. Moving on, though, we'll go into the offensive line. And this is one where I think that if you just looked at these 2 schools, you might think to yourself, like, Man, Hawaii's got to have some good offensive linemen, right? Like their pipeline they recruit out of, good Polynesian offensive linemen all the time. Arizona's best O linemen in recent memory, a lot of them have been Polynesian. But Hawaii, they weren't a very good offensive line last year. They gave up 43 sacks last year, Kevin, which was 126th out of 134 FBS teams.
Golly.
Tons of sacks. They throw the ball a lot, to be fair. They throw the ball quite a bit. So that's part of the reason that I think that number is so high, is because they're definitely taking a lot more dropbacks than a lot of schools. But they are one of the worst pass blocking offensive lines in the country last year. They didn't add much in the way of new additions that like make you like really fire you up and think that this is going to be a lot different this season. And I'm concerned about Arizona's offensive line, but I'm not concerned about Arizona's offensive line against Hawaii's defensive line, which we're going to talk about in a second here. But Hawaii's defensive line is not good on paper. Arizona's O-line should handle them easily. Shouldn't be a question. That's why I want to see, number one thing I'm looking for, I want to see this run game. Just put it on an inferior opponent, because that would tell me a lot about this coaching staff, the mentality change in this team, and the fact that they're just going to go out there and just play better than the teams that they are on paper better and more talented than. So that's why I think that you definitely have to say that the offensive line favor goes in favor of Arizona as well, despite Arizona's offensive line not being like their strongest position group whatsoever.
You know what a great offensive line, or even a good offensive line, would not allow? As many sacks as you alluded to, and also it wouldn't allow you to have the 124th worst rushing game. And I think when you combine the issues it has with allowing sacks, and you combine the issue it has with creating gaps for its runners, even though they do seldomly run, you do have to still block when you call run plays. I don't know if that's gotten to Hawaii, but you still got to do that. So I feel like Arizona does kind of walk away with this one in that sense. You expect Arizona's run game to be a showcase in this one as well, with the depth of talent they have back there, with the type of offense that Doege wants to run. You need some big dogs up front to be able to handle that type of play calling. But not only that, the pace, like the conditioning that these offensive linemen have to be under. I just think Arizona should walk away with this offensive line battle, in my opinion, Damon.
Would be total panic button time if we're looking at the offensive line performances on Saturday and we're thinking, man, both offensive lines looked rough. Because, and I alluded to it, Hawaii's pass rush and their defensive line are nothing to write home about. So why don't we go ahead and pull up the positional breakdown again and talk about kind of both those things in succession, given both the run defense and the pass rush edge to the Arizona Wildcats here. Large part, this is due to the importance of defensive line in this metric. One thing that I think Hawaii actually was decent at last season was from a defensive standpoint, was their passing yards that they allowed. They were 49th in the country out of 134 in regards to the passing yards number, which is fairly solid. Upper, third of the country almost. But that's also, they were not good at stopping the run. Their defensive line, they had a ton of turnover. Two of their bigger, players that they had last year. One of them's name is Sauce Williams, which is just an unbelievable name.
Damn.
He both of those guys out of eligibility. Anthony Sagapolutele is the other one there. Ezra Ava Imalo, medically retired. Deion Washington went to Boise State. And Malachi Finau went to San Diego State. He was supposed to be a kind of a young, promising player. Kevin, did you want to make fun of my pronunciations?
No, actually, I didn't want to make fun of your pronunciations. It was the cadence that you were reading with. It took me to like a high school graduation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You were like, I forget the names you were saying off the top of my head. I don't have them in front of me. But you were like, Ezra.
I was the kid in class that's struggling with the names there when it comes to like reading time and using my finger as I do each syllable. You got to do that with the Polynesian guys, man. There's lots of vowels in these names, and I'm trying my best out here.
And you know what you don't want to do?
I think they would appreciate that.
You don't want to get it wrong. You don't want to get it wrong. So I think
they would appreciate the effort there. I really do. Yeah. Rhino did.
Rhino
did
gets
for
it.
Sure.
Rhino gets it.
That's my boy for life. Because because I tried to pronounce his name and I kind of got it right. But
hope you're doing good, Oos.
Their defensive line they lost a lot in the way of good defensive linemen. They did bring in they brought in a recruit from Utah who, I think that could be a very big piece on their offensive line here. Kaeo Akana. He was the top recruit in the state in 2022, 4-star recruit bound for Utah. Didn't do anything really at Utah, but comes back to Hawaii. You figure he'll get a ton of playing time at Hawaii, and that's part of the reason he came back. Maybe that's a guy who you could watch out for as kind of a star player. But all in all, they lost most of their run stoppers. They lost most of their pass rushers. And I think Arizona just, in the way that they brought a lot of people back, they added they added Tia Savea back to this team. And he's another guy who we've seen before at Arizona, and we kind of know what we're getting there. They added in guys like Riley Wilson, who have performed admirably, and I think would figure to kind of start at a place like Hawaii. I'm going to go with Arizona getting the pass rush and the run stopping edge here. Two things that Hawaii wasn't necessarily all that great in last year.
One thing that stands out when you look at the Hawaii-Stanford matchup was the size discrepancy between Hawaii's line and Stanford's line. The front seven for Hawaii, not large enough to compete against a team like Stanford, who isn't really even like one of the bigger teams in the nation. And I probably should have checked that before I said that, but I don't think they're like one of the bigger teams in the nation from a size standpoint. But one of the strongest teams in the nation, I haven't checked that either, but it might be the Arizona Wildcats, because we know from listening to coaches and players from around the program that this team has really put the strength and conditioning.
I don't even want to know what the Alabama and Georgia offensive linemen are putting up in terms of their weight room numbers. No,
well, you know what?
Penn State, you seen those guys work out? They got running backs squatting like 600 pounds over at Penn State every year.
As you know, I tried to change the culture at Penn State with my running back in NCAA 26, and let's just say, Damon, I transferred to Oregon, and the culture is the exact same in Penn State.
I was about to say, was that because you went to Penn State and you realized,
yeah,
oh man, this culture is kind of effed up. Not even I can change it.
No, that they are beyond reproach over there. I don't know what else to say. But no, back to actual football at hand. Yeah, Hawaii is an undersized front seven. Their linebackers aren't huge. They do a great job at fundamental and foundational tackling. Like, they are a very fast defense, but they're just not a very large defense. And I think that Arizona's size should look stark in this matchup against Hawaii. That's at least how I feel about it.
Yeah, so you talk about the linebackers there for a second. I do want to mention them real quick. I think if we had a linebacker portion on this positional breakdown list, I would actually lean towards Hawaii's linebackers over Arizona's linebackers. We do not, in fact, have that, because I think that linebackers, you almost have less of them on the field nowadays than ever. There's almost one or two linebackers on the field at all times. It's not as if their impact is all that crazy. It is a little bit more in college football than it is professional football, to be fair. Where professional football, I think it's a lot more plug and play, your guys that you have at linebacker. But they have a good linebacking core on paper. Wyndon Ho'ahuli, another 4-star recruit, another top recruit in the state of Hawaii in his class, went to Nebraska, transferred back to Hawaii. Played defensive line last year. He's moving back to his natural position of linebacker. Figures to get a lot of playing time at Hawaii in his second season there. They have Jami Otis, Kevin, who is a team captain, was their representative at Mountain West Conference Media Day. On the defensive side of the ball, he wears the green dot, meaning he calls the plays for the Hawaii defense. And I think that he just has more experience and more leadership skills than probably a lot of the linebackers in that Arizona room right now. And I think Arizona's linebackers have a lot to prove. You have a guy in Max Harris who is transferring in from Texas State, obviously lower competition level. Performed well, I think, in that game against ASU when he did play Big 12 competition, but has to prove it at this level. And Tay Brown, who, I think by all accounts was a little bit more, and not to take any shots, but I think he was a little bit more of a passenger last year. I don't remember him making big plays. He did get some playing time, but we were talking about that, right, with Justin Spears, where it's like, can you name a big play that an Arizona linebacker made last year? And you couldn't. You couldn't name one. So I think that you have to go into this season with a little bit of an eyebrow raised towards our linebacker unit. We don't have that on this positional breakdown list, but if I did have that, I would say maybe lean linebackers Hawaii. It's close though. I think maybe neutral / maybe Hawaii.
Yeah, and this game hopefully won't be close, but if it is close, it's probably going to go into what? overtime. We're going to overtime on the AZ Wildcats podcast on
I
a
wish
Tuesday.
the last Arizona Hawaii game went into overtime, but Cool Tate got tackled about a yard short of the goal line there. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, we were robbed of that overtime experience in our week 0 game versus Hawaii in 2022 or no, sorry, 2018. Not even close to 2022. But I think that, just kind of to round out this discussion here, Kevin, we do have to talk about the defensive backs of both teams. Arizona, we all know, we've been talking about it all offseason. The defensive back room for the Arizona Wildcats is the strength of their defense. They have a lot of guys that they're bringing back in terms of experience, whether it's Genesis Smith, Traden Stukes, Dalton Johnson, Jack Luttrell, all safeties. Cornerbacks wise, you have MGK coming back after starting last year. You have Javion Cole and Michael Dansby, who both have tons of starter experience at San Jose State and some rotational experience for Javion Cole at Texas. You also have Aiden Garnes, who started at West Virginia last year. I mean, I think that Arizona just has a lot of guys that have had a lot of playing time at the highest level and kind of figured to be the strength and the depth of this defense, right? Hawaii, another situation where if you were to give them any plaudits on their defensive side, it's going to be in their DB room. But again, Arizona's DBs have done it at a Power 4 level and have looked good in doing so and have made plays in the Alamo Bowl versus Oklahoma and, in that 2023 season, a part of really, really solid, strong defenses. That's why you can't put those Hawaii defensive backs ahead of the Arizona defensive backs. So, I think that you got to give some credit to Hawaii's DB room and say that it's not going to be super easy necessarily maybe for Arizona's offense, but again, just a position where Arizona I think you have to give them the cake. Like it keeps matching up where Arizona's strengths happen to kind of be Hawaii's strengths, but Arizona's just going to be better at the stuff that they're better at than the stuff that Hawaii is better at.
Yeah, no, and you do mention the plaudits that need to go to the DB room of Hawaii, and I want to mention Kilanehi Mendiola Jensen, who led FBS defensive players in PFF rating
Unreal
last week
name.
with a 90.7. Yeah, it's a really fun name. He had that clutch interception versus Stanford that kept them in the game and gave Micah Alejado an opportunity to lead the team to victory before YouTube kicker turned actual kicker Matsuzawa iced the game. 4 tackles and 2 PBUs for Kilanehi Mendiola Jensen last week. The senior figures to be one of the more talented players in that Hawaii DB room, but like you alluded to, Arizona is deeper and simply more talented than Hawaii in that defensive back position. But I wouldn't like be shocked if there were a couple plays this upcoming Saturday where you're looking back like, wow, Hawaii's DB there really made a good play, made it tough on Trace 5, he made it tough on Noah Fafita to find the right spot to put the ball. I could totally see that being the case, but I don't expect it to be like a huge hurdle for Arizona to have to overcome. Maybe just something to have to step over, you know what I mean, on the route to victory.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Kevin. Moving on, and this is the one we're going to give to Hawaii here. Special teams.
Woo, yeah!
Kevin and I have highlighted our concern when it comes to the Arizona kicking game in particular. Depth chart comes out yesterday. Michael Salgado Medina is the starter at both kicker and punter. He was really, it seemed like, struggling to take hold of that kicking battle with Tyler Prejeune earlier in the season, or the offseason, I should say. Seemingly, they were kind of neck and neck the entire time. I think a lot of us assumed Isaac Lovison was going to end up being the punter, especially after talking to Justin Spears and just kind of it felt like that was the direction we were moving in. Turns out MSM is going to still be the punter as well after getting a little bit of punting experience last year. I'm concerned about the kicking game. I always kind of am as an Arizona fan. That's going to be something that weighs on my mind literally all the time, because I'll never forget the horrendous kicking mishaps that we've had in this program's history. It's so weird, Kevin. You either have like an all-time program kicker at Arizona, or you have like a kicking game that it just makes you cower in fear and projectile vomit everywhere, because it's literally like Nick Folk or Tyler Loop or Max Indejas, or it's Alex Indejas, and we're missing 3 kicks in an Oregon game that would have sent us to the Rose Bowl. but instead we'll have 0 Rose Bowls in program history, or missing extra points against ASU as well. So, it's one of those things that I'll always have my mind on. Hawaii has a kicker that has a very fun story. Kevin, I think that you probably know a little bit more about this story than I do. But would you care to explain Hawaii's kicking situation?
Yeah, no, I can rehash it a little bit. We talked about it on yesterday's pod. Kensei Matsuzawa took a trip to the U.S. one time, saw an NFL game, thought the kicking looked really fun, went back home and said, I'm going to just look it up on YouTube and figure out how to teach myself to do it. I'm a waiter. I don't want to be a waiter anymore. Where's the kicking hub of the world? You guessed it, Hocking College in Nelson, Ohio. He goes there with
Everyone
no
just
money.
said that at the same time, audibly, in front of their computers.
He goes there with almost no money, speaking almost no English, and he, gives himself haircuts because he has no money. But he grinds it out, transfers to Hawaii, and in his first drive and first opportunity for a game-winning kick, nails it, sends Hawaii to 1-0 as they enter Tucson this Thursday night, I suppose. And yeah, that's kind of the rundown with Matsuzawa.
I think
Hawaii's
the reason
kicker.
that we're leaning towards Hawaii over Arizona there is because we saw their kicker hit a game-winning field goal in their week 0 game against a quality opponent. And so until Michael Salgado Medina proves it to us, how could you put him a head-to-head above a kicker that literally proved it 1 week prior? So that's why I think that we're leaning Hawaii on the special teams side of things. And I just think that is more of an example of Arizona having everything to prove from a special teams standpoint, because we just have not flat out seen anything from this kicking unit in particular thus far. So that's where we're at with that one. Hawaii also has a Australian punter similar to Isaac Lovison. I don't believe that he did much of anything to write home about in their week 0 game. But yeah, just another Australian punter pipeline that seemingly has taken over the entirety of college football here. As I'm looking, it seems as though so their punter had a long of 67 last week, 4 punts for 221 yards, a 55 punt average, and 1 touchback, 3 pinned inside the 20. I mean, that's an unbelievable game. Unbelievable game from Billy Gowers, the Hawaii Australian punter that they have for this season. So honestly, I think that's very justified. I think Arizona has to be behind Hawaii in special teams play.
Billy Gowers sounds like a Ted Lasso character now.
Yeah, kind of. It's the most Australian name I've maybe ever heard in my entire life. But and finally, to wrap this up here, coaching. We had a conversation about it, I will say, off air. We were kind of maybe thinking about going neutral on the coaching here. Here's why we ended up going in favor of Brent Brennan in Arizona. I think first off, number one, I think you have to give some shout outs to Arizona's coordinators. Both Seth Doege and Danny Gonzalez are very highly thought of in the football community. Danny Gonzalez as a defensive coordinator has been nothing short of really good at every stop that he's been at. The only time that really wasn't the case is when he was the head coach at New Mexico. And maybe, not everybody's a head coaching guy. Maybe Danny Gonzalez is at a different stop later in his career, but it didn't work out at New Mexico as the head coach. He's been a good DC, though, at whether he's at Arizona State or whether he's, been at San Diego State. So that's why I think there's some confidence in him. And Seth Doege, we talk about him all the time, rising star, the sweet baby boy of this fine program, and he means everything to us. From a head coaching standpoint, Brent Brennan performed in this conference, Kevin. Brent Brennan did it in the Mountain West. Brent Brennan took a program on the downturn in San Jose State, who was much worse than Hawaii when Timmy Chang took over Hawaii, and he turned them into Mountain West champions. And he did it twice. And I think you have to give Brent Brennan his plaudits for that, despite his brutal year 1 at Arizona, 4-8, the most disappointing season that pretty much any of us can remember as Arizona Wildcats fans, all of the above. And he'll wear that, and I think we've reminded him enough about it. But if we're basing solely based off of what they've proven in their careers, how could you say a guy who's never made a bowl game at Hawaii is better than a guy who got the opportunity to go to Arizona because he was so successful in that same conference with maybe the bottom dweller of that conference before Brent Brennan took over San Jose State. I just think that given all of that, you have to give Brent Brennan the advantage there.
I mean, it's a job that many across the country, and this is not just like Damon and I saying it. It's like analysts we spoke to at Big 12 Media Day have echoed this. Like coaches across the country, when they speak about Brent Brennan, have echoed that when they look at the San Jose State job, they think the word like impossible. They think it's like a dead end kind of a situation there. And this is like a program where you have to lobby for funding so that your players can have daily breakfast. That's the kind of grind that you're spending your time with.
Or you pay out of pocket.
Exactly. Right? That's the kind of time management and grind you got to do. People make fun of Kenny Dillingham, and I know I enjoy doing it as well, but they make fun of Kenny Dillingham for like begging people to donate to the Sun Devil Collective, but that's just to get elite players into the program and keep them there. Brent Brennan had to lobby to get his players fed French toast sticks in the morning like you're in high school all over again.
Eggo waffles.
You know what I mean? And it's just like, I think that when we were talking about this pre-show, I felt that while Arizona's coaching staff may be unproven to the extent that we feel they need to be, but I think in terms of just evaluating which staff is more proven, Arizona's staff has a higher level of pedigree than Hawaii's, but that's no disrespect to what Hawaii's been able to build there. It's a very impressive program that they have. Now, hopefully they can turn it into a more winning program and have some results to back that up, but Timmy Chang has a ton of respect from what I've read online in the coaching realm. But I think we got to give it up to Brent Brennan and the staff, even though they did have not this exact staff, but Brent Brennan and the staff of last year had a really poor showing.
Yeah, and I think Timmy Chang has got Hawaii moving in the right place.
Yeah.
You know, as we kind of highlighted, like they haven't made a bowl game these first couple seasons under him, but they have the best team and roster that they've had under Timmy Chang, and they figured to make a bowl game this season. So I think Hawaii's a pretty good team. I think a lot of their strengths kind of got shadowed over by Arizona's strengths in this breakdown. So it's probably a little bit closer than maybe the positional breakdown in total would suggest. But ultimately, Arizona needs to kind of make this a statement win and go out there and really kind of leave no doubt, right? Like just step on their throats, for lack of a better term, and get the job done. Because it frankly, there's no excuse for being in a competitive game with this team. Losing is another thing. Being in a competitive game with Hawaii would also raise some eyebrows for me. I think you got to go out there, win by multiple possessions, and I think Arizona will do so.
I agree with you. A question has just crossed my mind, and I feel like I want to end the show with this brief conversation, unless you have something else on the position battle conversation, because I think you illustrated it great. Like, this game the skills gap is a lot closer than that graphic really depicts. But when you're breaking it down, Arizona has so many more strengths positionally than Hawaii, and that's just the way that it is.
I just wanted to say, shout out Jeremy Rodriguez of the Mountain West Mountain West Conference connection over at SB Nation for a lot of our information on this breakdown. Great work over there on the his Hawaii team preview going into the season.
Yes, shout out to everything that you just said as well. But I was thinking to myself, we're going to do a lot of these positional breakdowns. In fact, we're going to do one for every one of Arizona's opponents coming up this season. I was thinking to myself, at what point, Damon, will Arizona lose the quarterback position battle? Will there even be a game? And I'm looking at the schedule. There are a couple main candidates, and I'll go in order of those candidates. I think people might think it's an argument between Noah Fida and Avery Johnson. I actually don't think it's an argument between Noah Fida and Avery Johnson. I think Noah Fida is the better quarterback than Avery Johnson is.
I think we could ruffle some feathers on social media with that one, Kevin.
And that's fine. Actually, I would love Avery Johnson to show us. No matter what. I would love Avery Johnson to show us on the field why he's better than Noah Fida before I make that proclamation. He won a really cool and fun bowl game where he got to see a Pop-Tart pop out of a ginormous toaster. And I think that people think he's awesome because he was at the Pop-Tart Bowl.
He has long hair.
Long hair, sunshine, family fight, the whole thing. Avery Johnson is like an entertaining guy, but I don't think he's a better quarterback than Noah Fida. That's a fact.
I mean, this is a crazy question because I'm looking at the thing here. I mean, I think you could say, I think Avery Johnson and Rocco Becht would be the two that people want to bring up kind of in that first half of the season. But when you're going down here, I mean, Oklahoma State doesn't have a better quarterback than Noah Fida. BYU has a true freshman at quarterback, unless Bear Bachmeier is
something we don't know yet. Yeah,
like Jameis Winston level freshman. Then what are we talking about? Houston doesn't have a better quarterback than Noah Fifita. Colorado is kind of close, maybe, depending on what Caden Salter does, or if Juju Lewis comes in at that point and is really good, another true freshman as well. I don't think that those guys are better than Noah Fifita, though.
Yeah, they would have to.
Jalen Daniels would probably be the first one that I actually think would give a real shout at, and I think that that's close too. I don't think Cincinnati's quarterback is better than. I don't think Brennan Sorsby's better than Noah Fifita. And I think Sawyer Robertson and Sam Levitt have good shouts.
Yeah, and I think that
at the end of the season. But you're right.
I think the two ones that I'm looking at that have the most legitimate arguments right now today, before they've played any further games, would be Rocco Becht and Sawyer Robertson. And I'm leaving out Sam Levitt purposefully to get to this point. There are some quarterbacks on this list, like Jalen Daniels is one of them, in my opinion. Caden Salter is another one. Juju Lewis, if he gets in there, would be another one on this list of quarterbacks that I think it kind of depends on the way they're playing coming into the game. Like Sam Levitt, I don't really feel comfortable being like, it's kind of a toss-up between Sam Levitt and Noah Fifita, because he's been good for a year. You know what I mean? And I get that Noah Fifita had 2023, and that's a year, but he still showcased like why he's Noah Fifita last year. He was not able to do it in enough consistency with the offense around him to make it worth a damn, right? But
I mean,
I would talk to me
Noah Fifita in that Iowa State offense with that offensive line, with that head coach. Like, it probably looks better than Rocco Becht, right?
Probably does, but I think because Rocco Becht's in that situation, he's one of the quarterbacks I think has one of the better arguments for being above Noah Fifita. But it really is an interesting question when you look at it. Like,
that's a neutral. That's looking like a neutral in Damon's eyes.
It is looking like a neutral, Damon. But talk to us, I guess, the week of September 27th and see how we feel about it. But yeah, I thought about it, and I really don't know if there's not three quarterbacks on this list that you can really say, oh, they whoop Noah Fifita in a quarterback battle. There's just not. And it's kind of a weird thing when you think about, like, the Big 12 is the quarterback conference, and Noah Fifita not ranked as one of the top quarterbacks by many people in this conference based on what he did last year or what he did not do last year. But when you really look at it, he's going to be the better quarterback in almost every game this upcoming year. And if he's rolling when November comes around, he might be the better quarterback in that Baylor game. If he's rolling when Arizona State gets a Tucson in a vacuum, the win or loss in that game, we're not going to talk about it, but he might be the better quarterback in that game. You know what I mean? That's all I'm saying.
As Sam puts it here, if we were to say, and me specifically say, that Sam Levitt or that Noah Fifita was above Sam Levitt, the entirety of the heads in Tempe would probably collectively explode at one time. I couldn't imagine the anger.
He's a Big 12 champion!
That would be directed at me online if I was to put my name on stamp on that. But I'm with you, Kevin. I think that, honestly, that's an interesting discussion. You look at a lot of these teams, and despite it being the quarterback conference, if you will, I like our guy. I like our guy in a lot of these matchups, and I think that bodes well for maybe the potential of this team being a lot better than maybe what the expectation is going into the season. But I'm thinking we're going to see some neutrals on a lot of those, maybe those uncomfortable conversations, because and maybe that ruffles some feathers. We'll see. But that's going to do it for us today on the AZ Wildcats podcast. What I will say, though, is similar to the Jeremy Rodriguez Hawaii preview article that I talked about, our guy, Cohen Kinney, intern of our Fine program, who helps us out with so much. We really appreciate all of Cohen's hard work in terms of grabbing video at football, at basketball, media availabilities. He does unbelievable work over there, Cohen, and he really puts in a grind for us over here at PHNX Sports, given that we're up here in Phoenix and he's in Tucson, providing a lot of our on-the-ground coverage. Cohen wrote a preview article for Arizona football. If you guys are big enough fans to stick it out to this point in the show, you are big enough fans to click on Cohen's article, give it a read, and shout him out and give him a nice little comment on social media, because he works very hard. He deserves it. And it's a great article as well. Very all-encompassing. You're going to learn a lot about the Arizona football program and what kind of the bigger storylines are to watch for going into this 2025 season. So please, we have it retweeted on our show account on PHNX_Wildcats. It's also on our website at gophnx.com if you just want to go search for it that way. And you can, of course, follow Cohen at Cohen Kinney. That's COEINKINNEY. And that account is going to have the article posted right there at the very top. So support Cohen's work and make sure that you guys are clicking on that article. And another thing we are going to promote shamelessly, Kevin, We got our Wildcats TikTok up and running. And if you need more Bryce James content in your life, this is the only place to do so, people, because we have TikToks going up every day. We're scheduling all sorts of stuff on our PHNX Wildcats TikTok. And, of course, there is going to be all types of Bryce James stuff going on. It's probably going to be a little bit more basketball-centric to start off, but we'll, of course, throw in a lot of football stuff as the season unfolds as well. Kevin, anything to add on the TikTok side of things?
We got Oscar Rios stuff going up. We got show clips going up. We got Bryce James shorts going up. Literally taking all our great coverage that we do on this show and on our other social medias and bringing it to a new medium in TikTok. Very excited to take over that app like we have done the other ones, Damon. Yeah.
That is at AZ Wildcats Pod on TikTok there. So it's actually not our typical PHNX_Wildcats. It is at AZ Wildcats Pod. And as Kevin said, we're going to be posting stuff on there all the time, every day. Going to be electric. And, of course, make sure that you guys are following us on all platforms. You can follow me at Damon Dog. That's DAWG. You can follow him at Kevo Post, KEVOPOSTS. And, of course, you can follow us at PHNX_Wildcats on our X.com account as well as our Instagram account as well. Kevin, that's going to do it for us today. We will not be here tomorrow on a Wednesday. Wednesdays are going to be our day off during the Arizona football season, so make sure that you guys are akin to that information. We will be back on a Thursday at 2 p.m., hopefully with our guy Justin Spears breaking down all things Arizona versus Hawaii and what to look for in that matchup in week 1 for the Arizona Wildcats. And yeah, that's going to do it for us today on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Until next time, we will see you on a Thursday at 2 p.m. Peace out. Bear down.
And go Cats. Noah Fafita is better than your favorite quarterback's favorite quarterback.
We all silly like the mayor.